as we start to kick things off here. The first of 3 Erangels in a row, an awful lot on the line, so you have to reset the mental and come out swinging as Group Green go at it again.
We're going south to north here on the plane path, directly down the middle, so really not that bad at all in terms of being able to get to your ideal drop spots right off the bat here on the first game. So we're not going to see too many backup drops here, I don't think. I think everyone can move out towards their relative positions on the map. Stalwart already dropping out over towards Nova. We already discussed this. We've got I-8 down here as well. Vegeta Evos in the plane. I think this time around they're fielding both the twins. Last time we only saw Zuxi. Luxi was not in the mix there. And I think they had a great idea over towards our eastern side of the map. So it just went all a little bit wrong as soon as that nade knock came through. I think this might just be another hot drop on their hands, and I-8 once again having to deal with loops in another hot drop scenario. Let's see if they win it for the second time.
Keeping the spice coming. The cayenne instantly sprinkled into the cooking pot here for our second game. We'll see where this goes. In terms of the split already, you've got a bit of a 3-1 grouping, so a little bit fragmented depending on the peaks. High ground also taken. Ground loot being hoovered up as quick as possible to establish themselves something to actually battle back with, as this is going to be uncomfortable. Obviously, I-8, they had a good go of it into the previous game. We saw when they had a bit more control on their hands, they were able to approach it very nicely. Here, it will be a lot more chaotic, and that's not the only hot drop we've had. Okay, Blank, this is pretty tasty, actually. I'm glad we're still getting these.
It's Brar Esport coming up against
yeah.
DX Xavier. And I think the thing is with this one, this is the drop that we were the most worried about. Not for Bra, but for DX Xavier. This is not an easy team to go up against here in Pachinki. And in all honesty, if I'd have watched any of the games from Brar Esports and I was DX Xavier, I'd be thinking, I don't know if it's worth it, us dropping as Pachinki. I know it's a central position, but versus Brar Esport, who kind of send caution to the wind a lot of times and will just fight you tooth and nail for a position on their side of the map. This might be a position where we see DX Xavier move away from, and if they don't, I think it will be very detrimental to their overall game.
Feels like at times Brar Esport really can be renamed to the Pachinki Punishers. As
yeah, man, yeah, 100%.
So confident, man. Like the way they play around it, you can see like they go straight into it, honed in, getting into the flow state instantly. Even with the split, you can see it's calculated with how they've set this one up in terms of the control you've got. A lot of high ground, a lot of back entrances being covered, so you can sort of have the overall lay of the land. Yeah, when this one kicks off, definitely want to keep our eyes locked.
Yeah, I really do like the way they play it out as well, because this is sort of posturing as well at the same time, because they took that central, they forced DX Xavier out to the outer edges of Pachinki, almost offering them that escape plan, right? You know, they're like, look, there's a way out of here. You just have to take it. But if you want to come closer into the central area of Pachinki, we will have to go into a little bit of a cage match of our own. So I do like the way that Brar Esports does set this one up. And potentially this could be DX Xavier losing 1 or 2 players. If it goes the other way around, though, you know, Brar Esports, their confidence might just be knocked a little bit here. Smoke's already being deployed. And nades ever important in this scenario, trying to clear the top side of buildings and the bottom side. You have to be a little bit lucky, but just one lucky grenade can lead to an easy topple of all these players.
That first domino is always the hardest to get falling, but if you can pull it off, like you're saying, well-placed timing, good contact off one another, it can make the difference. Getting a little bit more confident here as well as they do roam. They've been able to find some defensive utility along their path, and they've been using these smokes to bypass their way through. Nate goes in through the window as well. Close, but no connection on that one. Couple more in the back pockets, and
nice.
It seems like the double will actually work out perfectly. Clean knock.
Yeah, that's fantastic coming from DX Xavier. You got to give them that. They were looking for the nade. They quite quickly scouted out the position. Top 6 on top, and Kane has to hit a nasty nade here over towards Parajin.
Looks like Parajin might have sniffed him out as well off the back of the peak, looking in through the windowsill. So now it's so much harder for Kane in this sort of angle. Ooh, right ahead of him, straight down the pathway. Could get a little bit awkward. Trying to peek off the back of the timing. Spans down, clean connection on the end, able to finish it. Follow up though, Blank. Surviving it and absolutely decimating the HP.
Yeah, Kane is not one to be trifled with here on Bra. And maybe we underestimated DXavier just a little bit. The double nade follow-up was extremely nice. I don't think Tospic was sort of ready for it, but those shots coming through from Kane were disgusting. Coursera looking to finish off that down player. Not finding much luck so far, though. And Chua, from the side, does find himself another knock.
He's taking a big bite out of him. Coursera going to be struggling off the back of this one. Now you're down at an uncomfortable angle, and the pressure keeps on getting applied. We were saying just how lethal Bra Esport are in this sort of situation, going into a Pachinki hot drop. But the longer it goes on, it feels like DX, they're going through the motions with very methodical play. The double nade was on point. They were smart with the read off the back of getting the opening tag. It came in swiftly. Since then, you've seen the peek back from Kane. Now the pressure's on for him to stay alive. But meanwhile, we get a bit of a fight kicking off here as we switch on over and see just what's going down on the hill. Clean connection onto Raging Ocio. He's already knocked.
Yeah, looks like we are seeing Reject just on the retreat right now, trying to run away as fast as possible. The lads on Malise Esports, not an ideal scenario for them. Not able to get out there as quickly as possible. You know, you play towards very peer anyway. You know, the pass outwards, and not easy. And look at that. Bra Esport down and out, 16th place. And I think, yeah, it's safe to say we underestimated DXavier.
Oh, yeah. One thing we certainly underestimated from them was just how methodical it was with those nades, mate. I think that's 2 of the 4 eliminations just raw off the back of utility damage with the double HEs they were able to pull out on that one. So grenades looking lethal in their hands. And you know how much of a boon that could be as well if they're finding their footing with it early on. So they survived the hot drop. They take up Bra Esports, the first full squad to fall. Other than that, I mean, everyone's looking pretty good. Everyone's been able to find their way through this one quite easily, apart from Reject Tokyo, of course, already looking green around the gills with just 2 players alive.
Yeah, it's bad news for Reject. How they get too far. I mean, they got a member towards, I think, very much the end game on that Sandhawk. And again, this is somewhat more of survival mode coming through for Reject so far. Gonna have to just try and salvage this game, get as many placement points as possible. But we'll see what happens. See what happens in the future. In the meantime, I'm looking over towards Gladiators, who have made a bit of a quicker rotation. Now, the last game was not ideal for them whatsoever, Jackie. Let's put it that way, right? You know, versus Alter Ego, going down to just 3 players, then trying to make a faster rotation, which I respected over on Sandhawk, only to met with overwhelming force from the side of Stalwart and Loops, who cut in from the side. I think there's potential here for Gladiators. They're just not showing us it yet. The question is when it will happen, if it ever does happen, because that sort of is becoming the main concern for Gladiators at the moment.
It's scary, isn't it, as well? Because it does feel like at times Mad Balls and Gladiators both suffer from the same formula that is that slow start. It bleeds over, it lingers onto them, and sometimes not having that extra sort of confidence to instantly go in, to instantly kick off those kind of maneuvers can make all the difference when it comes down to gun skill. And as we've already seen here today, some of the gun skill that's on display is already on another level. You've got that clash of metas, that clash of regions. There's so much that's in the back of your mind. And if you can't just focus on your crosshair, you can't just focus on your plays, it makes a world of difference. You can certainly focus on the steering wheel, though. As for Icy, he has been bonneted and crumbled like a snow cone.
Yeah, he doesn't go down without at least the last hurrah and tries to take out the vehicle underneath. But I respect that he got out of the vehicle, tried to stand his ground, but versus the bonnet of a UA doesn't always go well. Here's Mad Bulls versus Alpha 7. Zerich is down, likely to be flushed away there. It's just Fleek remaining. The solo god from the team, but versus Alpha 7, I just don't know how likely he's going to be able to pull this off.
Oh, first connection's clean. Trying to hit the drive, but can't quite do it. Good moves. Look at the way that he's playing around this, hitting the crouch at perfect timing. Good for 2, but not enough to close it out. So Mad Balls again being picked to pieces there, even with Fleek showing some fantastic footwork towards the end. And A7, you can reset from this. Yeah, it might take a sec, but you're going to be content.
Yeah, you can get back up from this. Another 2 eliminations in the back pocket for them is absolutely ideal as well. Looking over towards the map as the moment. It's heading up towards Rozhok, and at the moment, PMGC Evos have a really strong position over towards there. They're currently holding down the warehouse on the top side towards that hill. They've also got a couple of outposts down towards that south edge too, so they're maintaining the information coming through on that side of the map, and it does look like it is going to start to center towards that position too. So a bit of an urban finish would be a nice one for the first ERANGEL of the day, so we'll see what happens here. Again, that is just going to be a massive mass migration from a lot of teams trying to fit their way in towards that spot of the map. But again, we still got a couple more stages before we can be absolutely certain.
Falcons on a rotate back round, trying to save their mate. And they put the foot down, pedal to the metal as the pain will come out off the front of the car. Inflicted damage back on the quest and making their lives even harder today. It was a rough start in the opening game for them. And it seems like that could follow on here again into our opening ERANGEL, struggling to close down off the one knock they found on the Falcons and having to give up a lot of space. DX as well starting to move back on in, catching contact and potentially thinking they can do something about this. Two compounds close next to each other being taken by Falcons, but they've got to use a lot of the utility they've been able to scavenge to patch themselves up off the back of that opening fight, and you are already down a man.
Yeah, I do like this from DX, actually, to be honest with you. The fact is that they took out Bra very early, and also the circle being down towards that side of the map on the northeast edge means that they have a lot of time to work with here. And a lot of times, if the circle's over towards PMGC, you want to sort of huddle up, get some better positions, maybe all head over towards Church itself. But with this spot, it does mean they can start to sweep a lot easier down towards the south side because teams aren't particularly looking at them all that much, and they have a lot of high ground to play around with. So I do think that DX is most likely going to remain in this area for a little while longer, try and get some more eliminations in the back pocket. With that circle, it's not likely they're going to have a winning position towards the end game. Oh my god, Red! What? Off the back as well!
Oh my, the turn on that was unbelievable. The fact that he's been able to punish so cleanly. Ooh, won't matter even if he does get tapped with a DMR, they'll be able to get him back up and into things here, and they need him right now. Looking quite devilish with how he's playing. The compound clash continues though. 3 squads all in close proximity to one another, and there's more roaming in. The vultures circling them, seeing that there's an opportunity to strike on this one. So bullets from all angles as everyone's taking damage blank. This is going to be a big fight.
Yeah, Zuxy's struggling now, just the twins remaining on low HP, playing around one another. There's a couple of smokes been sent down. 2 players down already for Gladiators, but they're able to get towards that south side of Rozhok. It's not ideal positioning for them, but it's likely a position that can keep them in the game for a while. They don't want to stay on the outer edges, though, because that's likely to be the first spot to be crashed in the future. We are looking like a Rozhok finish right now, but still not definite until stage 4. In the meantime, Alter Ego taking down a couple of players of their own. They've got a nice setup down towards this south side. And Stalwart keeping it very chilled out over towards the eastern gas station, waiting to make their move.
Content with the points they were able to piece together off the back of the opening game. They know it's just about survival of the fittest and seeing how far they can take it before they focus on adding to that total tally. Gladiators finally starting to show a bit of the prowess we know they have underneath the hood. Been a slow start for them into the opening day of Group Green. Already lost 2 players before the first clash went their way, and they've been able to rack up at least a couple of elimination points under the belt and got a little bit more space to breathe now. It was uncomfortable with how close they were. Now you can at least slow it down a little bit, and you're looking at very fragmented squads as well in terms of what's left. It's dribs and drabs ahead of you, so having a 2 versus 1 in a situation like this can make the difference.
There's definitely a sacrifice that has to be made here, right, when you get towards this position. I think Gladiators realise that too. They're like, look, we most likely are going to have to give a couple of our players to even attempt to gain a spot towards Rozhok itself. But you're right, it is dribs and drabs of players around this area. So for Gladiators, technically not in the worst position right now. They're not down to 1 player. They still can push off of one another in the future. DX, on the other hand, they'll have to make their maneuver. But this is a cruel pop on the circle, down towards the south side, on towards school, and Alter Ego, they took a chance on this position. They took an absolute chance on it. They realized it was way too late to get into Rosart. There was too many teams here. They lost a player to Stalwart, able to pick him back up again, and they opted to go for school. Now, if this continues to center down towards this area, they've got a lot of opportunity to pick up a huge amount of eliminations here for Indonesia.
You could see as well, Alter Ego, even with the body language, they were looking relatively confident. They were calm. There wasn't too much energy displayed early. They were able to take the punches that came their way in the first game. And having a setup like this later on could be a big boon for them. It's where you'll finally have an opportunity to play from a level playing field and see what you can get done with it. High ground, control, given up as well as DX have a little bit of room to breathe on this one. Levis taking the lay of the land, Lamborghini off towards the far right as well. Two players in close proximity to one another, at least for the trade potential, but they've got eagle eyes from this position. You're going to get contact first.
Yeah, it's a good spot to play around with. And they'll be able to just sort of understand exactly what's coming at them, which allows you to use your utility way more efficiently, right, at the end of the day. That is the most important thing for you, because when you're stuck in a position like this, where you know you're not going to be moving for quite some time, you can't really bust out all that utility too early on. You want at least like 2 or 3 grenades for that end game. You know, any free picks is fantastic. Levi's in the watchtower, getting some good damage done over towards the guys on Alpha 7. In the meantime, Parajin suffering badly. Lamborghini tosses a nade, but it's not on target here, Jackie.
Oh, it's close, but not quite the belter that he was hoping for. Even with the support from the high ground, they're taking so much damage across the board that the edge that they had coming into this one, it's starting to be dulled. The blade diluted, not as crisp as they'd want in a sort of situation like this. And you've got to make a risky maneuver. Jumping in a vehicle, looking for a quick getaway. Levi's takes a bullet straight up towards the upper body. He'll be knocked down, not looking too good there. Rest of the team struggling to make it out as well. Lamborghini hopping in a vehicle and bypassing them. Even though he's surviving, the rest of his squad won't have the same benefit. Close and personal for A7 as they reposition. Got to do some field work as medics here.
You know, I really do like this play from Alpha 7 so far. Parajin finally down. They'll be able to pick themselves up another elimination off the back of that. And honestly, the setup that DX had here should have been pretty good for taking down A7. It just shows you how good of a team these guys are from the Americas. The fact that they can hold on in this type of spot, you know, set up a really rudimentary crossfire to keep themselves as safe as possible for as long as possible, super important. But they're losing their vehicles now. There's really an opportunity to start getting quickly into the circle. They don't have the momentum to make it happen. So they need to get a couple of knocks here, open things up. Because at the moment, Shopper and RNJ down towards that south side are being really problematic from that little ridge. We are getting our next circle shift over towards stage 5 now. The question is, where does it go? And it is over towards school and apartments.
Oh, Alter Ego, the early rotation paying off more and more the longer this one goes on. Sharing it with 2 other teams at this point, though, as they start to make their move on over. For Loops, this could be another situation where we need to see them showing that they can go toe-to-toe in the middle of a cell in a sort of situation like this, as it won't get any easier. Mass migration coming in as everyone's on a rotate. Less of a fun run, more of a sprint on this one. You've got to get there quickly.
Absolutely. There's really not a lot of space to play here, and I think one of the biggest plays you could go for is try and get over towards the side, the edges of school itself, because Alter Ego surely at some point will start to really group up, you know, come back together, stick as a tight unit, because you know teams are going to be getting over towards the walls of school, and it's difficult when to make that move, when to make that play, because you don't want to get shot at by players that are still on the outside edge of the circle. I think one team that's definitely done that is Stalwart, you know. They've just allowed all these teams to make these wild maneuvers. And right now, it looks like they're going to clean up the remainder of the teams coming out from the side of Rozhok, which is a really interesting play.
Worst case scenario here for Reject Tokyo, really. The two surviving players had been playing so fragmented and so quiet, just trying to keep themselves alive inside of the early compounds they established with a building each. But off the back of the peak, DX strike back. You find a pivotal knock, now effectively forcing them to play it out like a solo from this point forward, as you're not easily going to find any room to rotate. Going down to the low ground, you would be taken out of commission very quickly. Although DX, potentially, there's room to breathe. Right now, though, it looks like Nurzed's on our screens, and he is displeased with the fight that's ahead of him. A couple bullets down range, tags onto the first, takes a few back, and that is an understatement. With how many players that are all around you in this sort of situation, firing the first shot is effectively ringing the dinner bell.
Yeah, I think the Stalwart, they've taken a very aggressive maneuver, right? You know, there's a chance for them to slowly eke it down on the eastern side, but this is a position where they're looking to pick up some more placement points, more elimination points. So I think for them getting caught up now between Tiamba and Falcons, I do like this split, this play from Tiamba, sorry, which is over towards that southeast edge. You know, this is not as risky because they've got 4 players. They can confirm the edge side of Rostock. You don't want to head center because it makes leaving extremely difficult. For Gladiators, on the other hand, that's a bit more of a risk, but one that's paid off this time around because they play on the edge. There is an escape route, but if they got crashed as 2 players, wasn't likely going to go too well at all. I think Kitsune is just being sent forward to try and get some more points on this game with Meku being left behind.
Yeah, he's the point man right now. Take all the attention in a vehicle, try and keep yourself alive for as long as possible, and wait for the push in your teammate from Meku, who wants to kind of flank up the bank. And like you're saying, just see if you can get a couple more points out of this one, knowing that the chances right now for Gladiators is getting less and less the longer it goes on. Kitsune finally falling as he seems to have taken a shot towards the back. Meku, he's revealed himself, but he's repositioning out of it. You're going to be swung on by a full squad as well, and they've got nades for days, chucking them downhill straight onto his location. Not going to get any easier for Gladiators here. Seems like them are mad balls. They've been hit with the unlucky stick coming into the first 2 games.
Yeah, look at this though. Tiamba actually sort of protecting Meku in this situation as he just slowly creeps away, tiptoeing down the bank. He has a bit of position here in terms of the smokes where it's cutting off the sightlines from Tiamba, who send Alpha 7 back. So, you know, this might be a case of Meku being able to hold on just that amount of time to maybe getting towards the top 8, but it's really not looking likely here, Jackie. And for Gladiators, they're going to be going down this match probably with just the 4 points from the eliminations alone. Alter Ego, though, chiming up towards Tiamba as they also attempt to make their exit. Circle heads over towards apartments, and you can see teams rushing in, looking for a building of their own.
Oh, the close quarters engagement working well as the first kiss. Oh, pain will be delivered. Quick medkit in close quarters combat, not looking too good. Tried to reset off the back of it, and his teammate at least saving the bacon somewhat there as well as they swing round the corner, come peeking out through the doorway, and buy enough time, jumping straight back in onto the res as well to get them all back up on their feet. And these are clashes across the board. I'm surprised at this point Falcons were even able to stay alive. They were eating nades for days. They found themselves effectively with a shed to stay alive in, and a Molotov might cook them. Got a run on out through the doorway, straight into the barrel of the shotty, blown to bits. Oh, the trade back as well, not looking too good as the vehicle detonates and consistently this chaos continues.
Goodness me, he's just basically looking for breadcrumbs at this point in time at the end game. Meku actually getting a little bit further into this match is super surprising. He's in the points position now where he starts to accrue some of those placement points, so good for Gladiators, but again, it's that classic salvage game for them, which is not what we want to see. Alter Ego, they do take a knock, and once again, it's Alpha 7 just pushing their way through difficult scenarios time and time again. And I think that, you know, looking at this team and some of our comments from earlier, some of that macro has certainly been improved. It is definitely being band-aided by the fact that they are so sick at the game. But again, I think there's been some serious improvements happening from this team all the way through.
It feels that way. Hitting their shots at the minute. Good maneuvers, good reads on the game. Ooh. Being able to stay alive in a situation like this, though, is going to be so tricky. You're on your last legs. Sure, you've got the meds to work with, but everyone is right under your nose. Bit of a backstab as well, potentially for Meku. It depends how the cards want to be dealt on this one. Smoke wall in front. Water Ego's attention firmly given up towards Alpha 7. Meku with a timing on a read, still just crawling down on his belly, waiting to strike at the right time. 2 players on low HP now as well. Jump shot with a DBS. First one misses, second one pelts, but it will be the backup of Rosemary to take him out of commission.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have to get involved then. You know, you'll take a safe 6th place, right? That is what's ideal for you at this point in time. Teams move down towards the southeast side. This has not been an easy game. Circle's been all over the place. I mean, the way we've seen it, it moved north, and then it slowly moved up towards that northeast on Rozhok, and then it's just edged its way back down towards apartments. So no one's really been able to make a very good call, which is why a lot of teams are down on players to 3 or 2, because they've had to scrap for position here. The only team that currently has 4 players in their squads is Loops Esports, who's one of the earliest teams to get into towards apartments early on. Every single other team has suffered, and they'll suffer again, Jackie, because look at this circle. It is mean.
It's absolutely obscene. Good luck getting in. The bouncer will only allow a few people inside at a time, and it doesn't look like everyone's ready for this one. It won't be a bit of a dance to the death, it seems. Ooh, close quarters engagement again, though. Nurzed, we know that he's a bit of a solo dolo, but he's got to be a big don in a situation like this. SMG in close quarters engagement being run down 1 versus 3 effectively as space is being taken off him. Backs off through the window. Keeping a UMP in his hands as well. Had some nades to work with, but that's not the way you want it to go. Instantly struck upon as he hits the deck and should be down for good.
Yeah, I mean, CEO Layers, which has been playing a marvelous game so far throughout this entire thing. They send Nurzed down towards the position to give them at least a little bit of an anchor point to play around with going forward. That's Meku down. Tops will spot him out there, but a 6th place, you'll take it. With 5 eliminations, it's at least some points going forwards. Now, Stalwart technically have a really strong spot. He is out on the edge at the moment, but he has great sight lines. They can control a lot of these teams that likely will have to battle off against one another as they leave. But in future, there's really not many areas for Stalwart to head to, and I think that their vehicle's completely burnt out. So the game would have to end right now if Stalwart wanted a chance. Either way, they've accrued some elimination points, a top 5 position. It is good consistency from them.
It is. It's still rolling with the punches, right? Even if overall the situation with the team doesn't work out perfectly, still being able to hit their shots and looking warm with the DMRs as well. It's not as easy as it looks. Some of the pot shots we're seeing come out with that mini 14, making it look like a major 14. And it continues again here as the misery continues. Another shot back over. Rosemary feeling the pressure now.
That's a really good shot coming through there. It was just almost instantaneous. Mythic, very low. There's a couple of meds still remaining. Tempting to use him at this point in time, but just going to try and let his stims pick him up a bit more whilst he knows he's still in a fairly safe position. The circle's going to move in now, and this is where Stalwart will have to leave. Good opening from Chua, and he's waited for this moment too. Understands that now things start to get to a point where Loops have to leave this building. So getting a knock as the circle starts to close really does hamper them quite a bit.
It's the nades as well from DX that have been so impressive to watch. Even there, you could see the calculated effort of using the opening grenade into the top floor, establishing damage, Molotoving down onto the lower level where you know they're going to try and resituate themselves. Really clever stuff, Blank. The lineups have been on point for them. This isn't looking ideal, though. Got to be quick to get back in. You've got a thin smoke wall ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, that's all they can do is set up the smoke wall to try and get further inwards. Still taking shots back at them, though. Tops does get knocked. I think that'll be action out as well. They tried to get that smoke train working, and I think it could have been better if it was a case that that vehicle was not unassailable. Dude, it was so slippy. Someone had absolutely buttered that thing to run around the thing at the end.
Covered it in grease,
yeah,
and they couldn't get a grab on it. Didn't bode well, so it means that we tick down into the final 4 squads. Some of them looking chunkier than others when it comes to the HP across the board. A lot of damage done in the battle of attrition. Only 2 of the 4 squads looking like they've really got a lot of longevity left on this one. Close quarters engagement as well here with Loops sharing the compound with DX. Man's up top. They've got control at the bottom. Rosemary with a wide swing, hitting the shot and going for the quick get up on his teammate.
Yeah, this will be a serious haul coming through from Chua, and he has to do a lot here. Third place is a big jump up in points, but it is a 1v3 he's looking for. He's in the perfect building, the perfect room to make it happen, spraying players down as they come through that smoke. More nades coming through, and they're just sliding through the windows here, Jackie. They just cannot get them on target, and he's still looking for some more.
This is madness. It's all about playing the angle and the timing on this one. Every pot shot he takes here is audio for them to know that he's still in position. Smart play, drop the nade in, go in off the back of the timing from it whilst he's popping a heal, clean up onto that man, shut down DX, and stop their reign of terror right here, right now. For Loops, the benefit to that is also the fact you now have control of this compound. One of the last buildings that really have much of a defense left for them, but shots are still landing. Alter Ego taking the pace from the back pocket. We see the peek in that's actually ruined Loops on this one.
Barely any utility for Loops remaining, but look at all this coming from Alter Ego. 4 mollies, 6 grenades. Those mollies are going to be the things that really cause the most amount of hurt here. Getting out of this building whilst it's all set on fire, it's horrible. But Ayala, he does find one. Only one player remaining. It looks like Alter Ego is going to finish this one off for Indonesia. But Ayala refuses to give up, but neither do Alter Ego as they take the chicken dinner in our second game. And it's high fives all around.
Oh man, that's an intense final fight. The way he was playing it, you could see he was still confident they could squeeze out a win on that one in the closing moments of it. But Alter Ego in the end taking the second chicken dinner of the day and playing a blinder to a degree. Some of the nades we saw coming out from were